everyone, and welcome to another episode of Little Give. Today we have Lori on, so you're in for a special treat. Lori, go ahead, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, tell us what you're all about.
Okay. My name is Lori Keesey. I live in Wallen, Tennessee. I'm originally from the DC area. We moved here 10 years ago. And roughly, I guess it was 6 years ago, my life changed. And I started off on a whole new venture. Fulfilled a lifelong dream to write fiction. So that's what I'm doing now. And that's where I'm from.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so tell us if shift happened in your life and led you down this path. Tell us how that came to be.
Well, 6 years ago, we experienced a terrible tragedy in our family. Um, my oldest son was in a tragic accident. He died. And I can tell you, I've never felt such pain. We were a mess, and trying to figure out what to do, um, how to make sense of all this because it didn't make sense. I started thinking about life's purpose, and you know, I came to the conclusion. And yes, I've heard this a million times already, and perhaps this isn't profound, but for me, it was profound. I came to realize that we all have a purpose in life. And if we fail to achieve that purpose, we might be preventing someone else from achieving his or her own purpose. And that was the genesis of this novel that I wrote, published a few weeks ago. It's called Always Think of Me. And it tells the story of a 33-year-old party boy who can't figure out what he wants to do in life. He meets the woman of his dreams at an outdoor music festival. They established this relationship under extraordinary circumstances. She abruptly leaves his life. He figures he's never going to see her again, but then he does, just not in the way he had expected. The book opens and he's on an otherworldly mission to see her again and to stop her from doing the unthinkable.
So obviously you're going off into this fiction writing, and of course, you had this tragic thing happen in your life, and I do give you my sincere condolences for your loss. Tell us how that shifted into this book writing. Like, obviously, you want to write a book. How did you pick exactly what this book was going to be about and the whole scenarios that are within?
I really wanted to emphasize, when I started writing this, there was a huge, and we try to be uplifting, and I know that's what your show is about, and I'm all about that as well, because we need to navigate adversity. I mean, it happens to everyone. Um, at the time I started writing this book, there was a huge uptick in suicides. And I'm thinking, my goodness, if they understood that their life has meaning, that they have a job that only they can do, maybe they wouldn't be taking their lives. And I sincerely hope that if someone is contemplating these things, that they seek help. Their life, they're valuable, they're beautiful, they have something only they can do. And that was another um, um, motivation when I wrote this. I also wanted to pay tribute to my son. I'll be honest. The book isn't, my son is the muse and the protagonist. It's not about him. It's just that I used him as my mental image when I started writing these characters. The rest of the characters are pretty much made up from whole cloth. I just made them up. And so that was another motivation. And Cindy, I always wanted to write a novel. When I was in the 10th grade, we're reading To Kill a Mockingbird. Oh, I loved that book. And that's when the desire started. This is when I just said, yes, Lori, you need to write a book. But Cindy, I never thought I would. I thought, okay, you'll write one book. Okay. And then interestingly enough, I've decided, you know what? I think I'm going to write another one. And I am writing the sequel now to Always Think of Me. And I'm telling you, I'll probably it's a long way from being ready, but I learned so much from writing the first one that this one is, I wouldn't say easier, but it's flowing faster for me this time around. So that's kind of interesting too. But I always go to experts. I'll go to professional editors. I just don't want to put anything out there that I'm not happy with. and something I don't want to put something out there that a reader would be disappointed in. So that's what I'm up to now. I'm running with this, and I'm also continuing the blog called The Accidental Blogger. I never expected to do a blog. I started out, I've always been a writer. I was a journalist, a communication consultant for NASA, and I never expected to be a blogger. But, in writing this book and learning the whole industry, I realized I needed a platform. And that's why I started writing the blog. And I decided to emphasize people who face tremendous adversity but overcome. I talk about all kinds of things. Um, you know, uh, moms who've lost their children, what they did, um, just um, when you feel like you're a phony, sometimes people like they're pretending they're being someone that they really aren't, and it takes something away from them. And so I write about things like that. Um, some sexual abuse. I mean, one of my passions is to fund organizations that fight human trafficking, especially those involving children. There's nothing worse to me than that. It is a blight on society, and the repercussions are tremendous. I mean, you can see all types of adversity and dysfunction because a child was sexually abused at a young age or even as a teenager. It goes on and on. And I interviewed this very interesting man who is in Dallas. He is a forensic detective, and he roots out pedophiles. And I can't imagine, this guy's been doing this job for 19 years. Can you imagine, Cindy? 19 years being exposed to people who are just, pedophiles.
Yeah.
Yuck. Anyway, I wrote about him. I thought I wanted to lift him up because he's doing a job that no one wants to do.
Right. So what do you think led you to the path of like wanting to share the stories of adversity? I'm the same way. I love to hear the stories of how somebody took some pain and turned it into purpose. And so I really kind of seek out people to share those stories. What is it about you and your personality that made you gravitate towards that yourself?
Well, I think it's because I faced adversity. We go through our lives and everything is rosy, everything is good, and then in a snap, it isn't. And you really need to muscle through it. And we hear about the stages of grief and that sort of thing, and nothing is on a continuum. You'll bounce back and forth, but I think you need to come to that point of acceptance. And for me, acceptance was turning this terrible thing into a blog and also novels and fiction. My two short stories I wrote are also about adversity and how these people got through or didn't get through. Sometimes you don't get through. The note is what both of them are actually based on true stories. These are my family, members of my family. And I guess what I love my family because they're storytellers. And I remember when I was a little kid going to my mom's, my grandmother, and she would have, her brothers-in-law sitting around her huge kitchen table, and they would sing and they would tell stories. One was a vaudevillian. He played the organ. I learned, I'm a little kid and I'm captivated by their stories. And I think, I think people can relate to stories, and everyone has a story to tell. And I just hope people write those stories down, share those stories, because they become you. They are you. This is your heritage, your beginning, so to speak.
Hi, my name is Justin Clark, and I'm the president of the board of directors for Driving Single Parents, a 501c3 nonprofit serving the citizens of San Antonio and Bexar County, Texas. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the great work that our organization is doing for the citizens of San Antonio. What you're about to see is just a few photos and videos of the way that we're changing lives for single parents in and around San Antonio, Texas. Our first giveaway took place in April of 2017, just one short month after the formation of our organization. John, a Bexar County resident, was the victim of a horrible drunk driver incident. He and his daughter survived the crash, and we were so proud to give our first car to this deserving family. Fast forward to 2020, a very difficult year for nonprofits. We were able to secure 4 vehicles for single parents in need. Our organization, including our board of directors, list of partners, and portfolio of people we've been able to help in San Antonio, continues to grow, and it's all thanks to donors and local community organizations that have helped us along the way. This giveaway took place in 2021 and shows that we continue to help single parents even after the struggles brought about by COVID-19. Because of limited funds and the overwhelming need, we at Driving Single Parents are incredibly selective with the people we help. Some are victims of domestic violence. Others had a spouse pass away tragically or otherwise fell on hard times. These single parents show adversity in the face of challenge and aren't looking for a handout. We offer a hand up and help get them back in the driver's seat. Many of the single parents we help go on to graduate college, get promotions, get married, mentor others, and some have even been so touched by the gift we gave them that they have decided to join our board of directors to pay it forward and ensure the continued growth of our organization. If you would like to help our organization continue to grow and continue to help single parents in need in San Antonio, Texas, and Bexar County, Texas, we would really appreciate your support. Please visit us online at www.drivingsingleparents.org. Thank you.
And that's absolutely right. Everybody has a story to tell, and it is fascinating to hear somebody's story and what shaped them to be who they are today. And also interesting to see how some people go through adversity and then they, don't excel. In fact, they aren't able to move past it, and then other people who are. What have you seen in your journey as to maybe that difference where one person is able to use that as power and rise above and do more, and another person can't get past it? Do you know what the blocks are?
Yeah, I for me personally, I think it's faith, and I've noticed that in the people I interview. People who have a strong faith in something larger than themselves typically have an easier time of it. If you believe that life is random, there's no meaning, there's no purpose, there's not an afterlife, so to speak, you would get more depressed, wouldn't you? This
I
we're
would.
we're here for this is just a little bit of time in our journey in our souls, and I think that to me has been the biggest thing. Faith can get you through. Faith will get you through.
Yeah. So you talk a lot about grief and loss, I know, in your journey and some different speaking engagements you've done. Can you give us some insight into that? I know it's so difficult whenever you go through loss and you're grieving. People think there's a certain way to handle it, and there's a good way and a bad way. And I disagree. I think that it's your way. So can you give us a little bit of insight into your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. There's absolutely not the right way to do it, and you really what I think is the best way to deal with it is to encourage the people who are there for you, encourage them to tell stories about someone you lost. Those stories are so uplifting. They make you laugh. That you might even cry, but knowing that this person you lost isn't really lost, people still remember this person. That just goes a long way in the healing process, and that's what I've noticed. I've had friends who've lost their children. It's the same thing. They want to hear stories about their children and what their children were like when they were here on earth. So that's my advice to others. And if you do have a person who's grieving, forget the old bromides. Oh, he's in a better place and stuff like that. Because for the person who's going through the grief, they want that person here and now. Yes, they understand intellectually that the person likely is in a better place, but they don't want to hear it now. It's no, I want that person now. And it's sort of selfish, but you have to get through it.
Yeah, and it can be really hard for somebody from the outside who knows someone who's going through, the grieving process to know what to say and what not to say. Because sometimes,
Right.
you might have the best intentions but say the wrong thing. And so some people may not say anything at all because they don't know what to say in the right way. Would you be willing to give some tips to somebody out there who might be experiencing that type situation?
You know what? They don't have to say anything. Just being in the room and allowing that person to speak and encouraging that person to speak, I think is probably the best thing you can do, especially if you don't know what to say. Some people are very good at it. They just know exactly how to help someone who is in pain. Others, they're uncomfortable. And in our society, we have a difficult time with we know how to acquire things. We don't know how to give things up. And that goes with loss. And if you don't know what to say, just be there. Just be there. Hug that person. Also, another thing is if you really want to do something for someone, don't say, oh, give me a call if you need something. Well, they don't know what they need. And you need to be observant. Say, how about if I do this? And maybe the person doesn't want any help at all. And that's fine too. But don't just throw it out there. It sounds, I don't know, it's like, let's do lunch. You know what I'm saying? It's just it doesn't seem authentic.
Kind of like an empty promise, sort of like, oh, yeah, give
Exactly.
me a call
Oh
when.
yeah, yeah. Let's get together. There's no say. No, let's okay, sure, let's get together, but let's put it on our calendars now. So
Yeah, more
yeah,
like,
don't
"Hey, I'm headed to the grocery store. Do you need anything at the grocery store? I can drop it by on my way back." There
exactly.
you
To me, that's perfect. Things like that. Or if a woman has lost her husband and the grass needs to be mowed, I'll mow your grass. Things like
go.
that.
Yeah,
And
sure.
and people always bring food, and that's good, but sometimes people bring too much food and they don't know what to do with all the food. And they're not hungry at all. They can barely eat. Maybe you say, how about if, is there a charity? Is there something I can drop something off? Things like that are very, very meaningful, especially if donations are made in the memory of the lost one.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. Great tips, by the way. I know that can be a little bit of a hard thing for some people to navigate, so I'm grateful that you were able to share that. Can you tell the audience what's next for you? What are you planning next for your next book or next project?
Well, Cindy, my husband and here's another item on my bucket list. I've always wanted to drive across country. So my husband and I are leaving July 7th and we are going across country in his truck. I am not making hotel reservations. I have always been a planner. I'm not exceptionally good at planning, but I like to know what's up, But this time I'm not. I am going to be spontaneous. And we're doing is we're tracking the route of one of the characters in the sequel to Always Think of Me. And we're going from this area, the Atlanta area, to Nevada. And then from there, my husband and I are going to go to Wyoming and see a friend. And then we're going to South Dakota because I've never been there. And then from there, I don't know which way we're going to go home. And again, I'm not planning it. I'm just going. So that's what's going on in July for me. And it is a fact finding mission. I have I have flown to all types of airports, but I've never driven through Oklahoma, for example, or even the Amarillo area of Texas. I've and how can you write a book if someone's on this journey and you've never been there? So he's driving. He says, you're not driving, which is fine by me. I don't want to drive. And I'm going to be taking notes. I'm going to be maybe shooting some video, photos, just to make me remember when I write this book. Well, I'm writing it now, but to fill in some of I guess it's the scenery, the background. What is this character seeing as she makes this trek across the South?
Hi, my name is Andrew Fraley, and I believe that sometimes we all need a little bit of help. If you're in the San Antonio community and you need some legal help, call me at 210-725-4658.
So, can you give us some insight as to what this next book journey is going to look like? I know you're still building it, but do you have like a little bit of a little sneak peek you could give us?
Sure. The character is Jenny. She's in Always Think of Me. And a lot of her issues stem from some past trauma, an unbelievable trauma. And she falls prey to a narcissist who is her fiance, and she is fleeing him, and she is going to Nevada to resolve some issues with her mother who abandoned her when she was a child. So you can see where these traumas, a lot of people who experience these things end up being people pleasers, and they end up being prey to those, narcissistic personalities. They have a beast to feed, and they'll prey off of empathetic people. And certainly Jenny is that type of person. So that's what's going on in this book. And I thought, Cindy, I'll never write another book. But a lot of readers said, well, what's going to happen to her? So I said, okay, all right. A lady in my Bible study said, you really need to continue. And isn't that something? I said, okay. And I sat down 5 weeks ago and started writing. But I need to do this trip. I need it because, again, I need the color. I need the back color, color commentary, so to speak.
Yeah, well, I know how it is to get the bug. I actually have written 4 books, and I have
Yeah.
2 more coming out in the next 8 months. And so once you get the bug to write, and it is always somebody saying, well, okay, well, what's next? And what's the next thing? And what about this? And you get that little bug.
Well,
But I love
I'm
I was
sorry.
just going to say that I love how, you're going to actually, put yourself into the journey, not just into
Yes.
the writing journey, but into character. I think that's so cool. And how you've added it to your own personal bucket list, which I stopped saying bucket list a while ago. Now I call it a live it list. I
There
have a
you
list of
go.
things
Love
I want
it.
to live. And so, yeah. So, but I love how you're incorporating this book project and your authorship into your own life and own journey. And it's becoming a real thing rather
Yeah.
than it just be the pages in a book. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And when I was in high school, I've never waitressed in my life, oh, by the way, but I was going to travel across country and waitress across country. That never happened. I also wanted to be a foreign correspondent. That never happened. But you know what? We're going to do this. And I really like the idea of just sort of winging it, I don't know. A lot of people say, "Oh, I couldn't do that." Well, normally I would be that way as well, but I've got it. I'm almost getting tired of me. I want to do something that's outside of my comfort zone, and that would be it.
Yeah, I mean, I know you worked for NASA for many, many years, so I'm sure that you had to be super, a certain way during that time of your life. So to kind of branch out and do something different is probably got to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? Another good thing too, Cindy, is that you can do social media. Well, here I am, da 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 da. To keep people informed on as to my progress or what I'm up to or that sort of thing. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm going to do.
Yeah, because then you can take the reader on a journey with you.
Yes.
It's one thing to sit down and read a book you just picked off the shelf and like, this is a good book. But whenever you see the author go through a journey and you experience it with them and you're alongside them, that's a different kind of feeling whenever you finally get to read the print and you know
Right.
the kind of backstory as to how it came to be. So
That's
I think
right.
you're really causing an amazing experience for your reader. So I think it's inspiring what you're doing.
Well, and also people watching. People are different from region to region. And I don't want to use stereotypes. I do want to go to the diners. I do want to see, how people are in those areas. If they're friendly, if they're
Yeah.
yeah, distant or whatever. Like if you were to come to Tennessee, you would probably be somewhat overwhelmed by the friendliness. It's a very friendly state. So, and
Yeah.
I'm from the DC area, and yeah, they're friendly people there. Absolutely, absolutely. But it's a city. It's a very big area with lots of people. And so it's kind of, I don't know,
A different feel.
a totally different feel.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to switch off to the 2 questions I ask all of
Okay.
my guests. So the first one is, can you give the audience an example of a little thing that they can do in their community that might just be a little give on their end, but might make a big impact on the other side?
You know what? That's smiling at someone. I mean it. You just smile at someone. You know how people walk down the sidewalk and they look at they're looking at the ground. They don't make eye contact with people. You know what? It's amazing what a smile will do, or, hey, how are you? I remember that happened to me when I was in DC, and some man where I'm on the mall, in front of the Capitol, and some man just came up to me and just said, "How are you?" And this great big smile, and told me that that I looked wonderful and hoped I was doing well. Boy, you know what? In that very moment, I wasn't feeling very good. I wasn't feeling good about my career or what I was doing. I think there had been some type of blow up by someone in, one of the bosses. And, you know, that really lifted my spirits. And that is something so easy to do. Smile, say hello.
Definitely. I 100% agree. And actually, my oldest daughter's 26 and she has a daughter of her own. And went to the store the other day and I'm walking and I'm like, hello, how are you doing? Hi, how are you? How's it? Always talking to everyone. She goes, Mom, you're so friendly. Well, isn't that kind of weird? And I'm like, well, maybe it's weird to you, but to me, if all the time you say hi or hello, but I do a follow-up question of like, how are you? And then I look at them and wait for the answer. And sometimes they kind of look at me like, I'm good. Like, are you going to try to tell me something?
Well, who are you and why are you talking to me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then other people are like, you can tell like that instantly brighten their day. So I love that example. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can you give the audience an example of a time in your life where somebody did something little for you that might have just been a little give on their end, but really made an impact on you and in your life?
Well, that's an easy question. It was in the first grade. My first grade teacher, her name was Edwina Molnex, and she we had to write these little stories, and she pinned my story up on the board. We had to illustrate, and it was a parent visitation day, and I remember her taking my mother, grabbing her arm and taking her over to that bulletin board, pointing to this story and telling my mom that she thought that I might have writing talent and that my mom should encourage it. There you go. It
Wow.
set my path. It really did. Because then I started writing these little stories on paper and continuing to illustrate and that sort of thing. But it followed me throughout my life. And then in high school, the editor of the school newspaper, being a reporter and editor for the Diamondback at the University of Maryland, where I majored in journalism, it set my course. I always knew what I wanted to be. And that is one little thing. And my
It's
mom
so
doesn't even
special.
remember it. She doesn't even remember it.
That's so special. But I recently came to know about a nonprofit called Words Matter. It just started last September. They're brand new. But the cool thing is that words really do matter. And I know when we were kids, they told us sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you.
That's
But
right.
that's not the truth. Those words, like you just described, really make an impact in your life. And so whether it be positive or negative, words can really shape who you are and who you become. So we
That's
should
right.
always use our words wisely. So thank you for
That's right.
sharing that. I love
Yes.
that. Great example. Great example. And then look, you became an author.
Yeah. Woo.
Woo, that's so awesome. Okay, what about nonprofits? Do you have any nonprofits that you're excited about?
Well, I'm excited here in East Tennessee. I'm excited about an organization called the Community Coalition Against Human Trafficking, and it's on the screen. And I urge your followers, your viewers to check their own organizations, local organizations, because this is a problem that's across the United States, and it human trafficking bothers me so much I can't even begin to tell you, especially when it involves children. Oh my goodness, what are we doing to our children? We can't do this. We need to help.
So
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's okay. What set the fire inside of you to be so passionate about this specific need?
I interviewed someone. I couldn't, through the blog, I was writing about this woman who was talking about her volunteer work in Florida, excuse me, with an organization. It was a faith-based organization, and they were reaching out to women who are clearly in trafficking. I said, I have to write about this, and they set it up so that I would talk to an actual victim. And I was so stupid then, Cindy. I didn't understand their trauma and how questions could trigger them and make them very uncomfortable. We were probably maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes into the interview, and she had to stop. She said her baby was crying and she clicked off the Zoom, and that was the end of that. I learned a very hard lesson on that. And it really, really, this woman was so fearful that her former um, um, trafficker would find her. And I can't imagine living in that type of fear. And it really did light a fire under me. I thought, this is terrible. Fear is not from goodness. Fear is from evil. And this is a perfect example.
Yeah, well, I think that it's so admirable that, you had this experience with this woman and come to know about this, and now you've educated yourself and you know more about how triggering that could be and
Mhm.
all. But then for this to not even be a personal thing that you've experienced, but you have taken the time to research it and write about it and spread awareness and show people that this is a real thing that can happen. And then today to be highlighting this nonprofit on this show is just amazing. And I think it's so neat how those stories that we hear and those experiences we have in our lives can shape us
Mhm.
into doing things that are,
Mhm.
into, formulating thoughts that we never knew we would even have. And it seems like that's what's happened with you throughout your journey of interviewing people and writing the blog and then also your book and then your own experiences.
That's right. And when we're talking about how people overcome, that's another thing. Share your story, your adversity story with someone else, and get involved in some organization that helps people work through these issues. I mean, adversity is adversity, whether it's losing a job or getting involved in a horrible divorce or losing a child or a mother, a father, whatever. It's tough, and people need each other to get themselves through
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. And sharing your story, no matter what it's about, can help somebody who may be going through or growing through the same thing that you've been able to get to on the other side of. So I
And
think
and
it's really important to
and
share.
and another thing, Cindy, I think that sometimes we do go through adversity because this is the path we were supposed to be on, and it educates you so that you
Mhm.
can be that helping hand to someone else. And
Yeah,
these things, and if you look, okay, what do I do with this? And you soul search, pray, whatever you do, you know, try to look for, okay, what can I do? What can I do with this to make someone else better? I think that is very helpful too.
it is. And not only does it help that other person, but it helps you go through your healing journey as well as you share your story and you're able to help others and others, send back to you how much you've shaped their lives or helped them in some way.
Right.
It really does help you heal a little bit more.
That's
Well, I've
right.
really enjoyed this conversation with you today. Thank you for all that you're doing to help others and your amazing book and all the things that you're going through and growing through this lifetime. So I want to thank you for being on. Why don't you tell the audience where they can get to know more about you, learn more about your books, and maybe they want to buy a copy or follow you on this amazing Live It List journey you're about to be on?
Yes. And Cindy, may I borrow that? I love it. The Live It List. I like
Please
that.
do. Please
Okay.
do.
People can find me at lorikeesey.com. It's my website, has my blogs, my a page for fiction, and on the fiction button, you can learn information on where to get the book. Of course, Amazon, Books a Million. What else? What's the other one? Oh, can't remember. There it is. There it is. Um, that's how you can get the book, and I hope that they do. And also, Cindy, I would love hearing from readers. So if they want to email me, I always answer my emails. I think it's important that you stay in touch with folks.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much again. And if anybody out there wants to know more about her and all she does, she gave you all the details on how to find out and where to get those cool books and follow her through her journey of writing this next version. If you are passionate about that nonprofit or you want to give back or help in some way with human trafficking, please go visit their website that we displayed today or go find one in your local neighborhood and make a donation. $1 or $5. These nonprofits really can make a big, big impact. We've seen this audience do it before. We want to see you do it again. So please do give back, find little ways to make this world a better place. Thank you again, Lori, for being on today. Thank you to all of the audience out there who took the time to watch this show, and we'll see you all next Sunday. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Little Give. If you would like to learn more about how I highlight ordinary people doing extraordinary things to help others, or maybe you'd like to be a guest, or maybe you know a nonprofit that you would like to see featured on a future episode of Little Give, you can find all the information on our website at littlegive.com. If you'd like to get involved with our kindness clip segment, please do send in those videos. Send them via email to cindy@littlegive.com, or you can tag us on any social media under Cindy Whitteman or #LittleGive. If you'd like to know more about our podcast, you can also find us on all major streaming platforms under Little Give Podcast. Please do find our Facebook group under Little Give TV Show and join it. We'd love to keep you up to date with future episodes. Thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to highlight the next ordinary person doing extraordinary things to help others. See you next time.